Hello, 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 everyone. I'm Dr. Hockman, the medical matchmaker. I help doctors find the most amazing jobs where they can feel cared for and have autonomy and an actual voice. So if you're looking for practice, please let me know. And I have the coolest guest today, Dr. Rashmi Schramm, who I have a low key crush on. Dr. Schramm, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Crush is mutual, by the way. And so I am a board certified family physician. I'm also a certified coach. And my real passion and where I do a lot of my stuff is with the coaching and then as a meditation teacher. I'm the founder of Optimal Wellness. And this is a place where we help busy professionals to ditch guilt and overwhelm and to tap into their own inner peace and power so they can live their lives with more energy and fulfillment.
Now you do this in a different way than just kind of a life coaching sort of thing. So, what do you focus on with your people?
Yeah, and I think there's enormous value in life coaching, in therapy, and in all of the different ways that we get to heal and grow. And so really what I do is I say that I supercharge coaching with meditation. And so we work in the subconscious mind as well as in the conscious mind, and that's what makes it so much fun for me.
That's really cool. So, I wanted to talk to you today about meditation. So, I was just thinking before we got on this call, actually, right before we got on this call, I was like, hey, I'm going to interview Dr. Rashmi. So, I'm going to do a little 5-minute meditation. So, I did it. Thank you for making me do that by just being my guest today.
Awesome.
um, But what I was thinking was, who decided one day I'm just going to sit down, clear my mind, bring my thoughts back to neutral, and just see what it does? Like, where on earth did this idea or this practice of meditation, mindfulness come from?
I love that question so much. So it kind of connotes that our default system is thinking and doing. Right? Like,
Hmm.
it's abnormal for us in our society to be still. And that is the actual question perhaps to be questioning.
That is true. Do we see in other cultures or countries or islands where people are just more still? Like it feels so rat racy in the US.
Yeah, and let me answer your question, by the way, instead of being smart alecky about it. So so it isn't that any one culture has like the kind of patent, if you will, on meditation. If you really study, really every ancient wisdom tradition has some form of meditation in it. It just looks a little bit differently from culture to culture, but every ancient wisdom culture tradition has meditation as part of that contemplative inner kind of journey, right? And so you're absolutely right. Really, since the Industrial Revolution, certainly in the West, we have skewed more towards being human doings rather than human beings, right? So we could leave our lights on all night. We could read all night if we wanted to. And now it's not just read, you could literally be online for, 24 hours a day. And that actually defaults then into human doing rather than human being. And so in many ways, really truly, it's one of the most healing, most innate, most intuitive ways that we can evolve, grow, and move into whatever space that we need to at that point. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so true. That's so true. We're now human doings. We're not human beings. And I think about it, I really like until the second I go to sleep, I'm trying to get things done. Like there's no downtime. Even during my downtime, I'm thinking about what I should be doing. So
Yeah,
that's really where that comes in, right? Like, oh my
right.
goodness.
Right,
That's
right,
so
and
true.
you're not alone. You're not alone, by the way. It's not like there's something abnormal about you. It's the way that we're conditioned to be, and we feel or we're told or we think that that's what gets us ahead, and that's what gets us to our goals.
Yeah. Or that's just what keeps us caught up. But
Yep.
really, we'd be more productive if we just didn't do things sometimes. So, okay, when I first learned about meditation or like decided I was going to give this a try, I was pregnant with my first kid. So I went to a meditation class. This was many years ago. And I was so frustrated because my mind wasn't clear. It was like mind bogglingly frustrating. And so I gave up. And I've since learned like, that's okay. That's actually kind of what you're supposed to do. And that wasn't told to me at the beginning. And so, I kind of gave it up for a few years and then realized that's all okay. And I went back and I just kind of got back into it a little bit because I was checking out a meditation teacher coach for a course that we have. And that's when I really was like, oh my goodness, like the whole point is not to have a clear mind, it's to bring your mind back to neutral. I guess that's kind of sort of the mindfulness side of things. And I've noticed since then, when I do practice mindfulness or meditation, I find more benefit when I can't keep my mind clear and I just keep bringing it back than having that clear mind. So, one of the emphasis, and I was kind of joking about this and named this meditation the right way. And we're like, okay, there's no real right way. So, can you talk a little bit about the right way to do meditation?
Yeah, I got a little nervous when you meditate the right way. I was like, oh my God, I don't want people to think there's a wrong way. So you basically already gave your TED talk. So there's not much more for me to add to that, except for how brilliant your intuition and your insight has been in that journey, right? And so one of the most common questions that I'm asked, and I used to also think, was I have to control my mind, I have to control my thoughts, I have to be totally still in order for it to count as a meditation. But in fact, really meditation isn't that at all. And just to define meditation, it's literally just a journey from activity into stillness. That's all it is. It's a formal way to practice mindfulness. And mindfulness is also incredibly simple. Mindfulness is literally just the awareness that arises when we are paying attention to this present moment, right? Not the to-do list and not the conversation that we had, an hour ago, like we tend to do, like the mind tends to do. But when we're deliberately paying attention to this present moment and without judgment, which is also very difficult to do, and with curiosity, which can also seem very difficult to do. But the really, really beautiful and interesting part about, anytime I think of what mindfulness is, let's look at our 3-year-olds and our 4-year-olds and our 5-year-olds. Like, you did not teach them to be mindful. I didn't teach my kids to be mindful when they were 3 and 4 years old. They actually already embody mindfulness. They're curious, they're not judging, and they're in the moment. And so to me, that is the biggest aha of like, this is our innate nature. Mindfulness is actually our innate nature. And it's not that there's something broken with us or we're doing it wrong, but we just need to get back to our innate nature. And it doesn't have to be that we're mindful all the time. In fact, it's impossible to do so. But really, if we can bring in even slithers of this into our lives, we can actually get more into balance than we are now.
So, what about for people who are super busy all the time? And I confess, I'm totally guilty of this. Super busy, maybe even don't know how to do it, don't know how to meditate or, just be mindful. But for someone who, says, okay, I'm doing it, I'm going to do this meditation thing every day. But then, real life happens and we don't make it happen. So, what would you suggest to the busy people who most of the people watching this are going to be physicians? So, what do you say to those people, me included?
For sure, me included, right? So, really, it would be that one of the major tenets of meditation and mindfulness is this idea of beginning again, right? So, what if you missed yesterday? Begin again. So, what if you could only do 5 minutes 2 days ago? Begin again, right? And so what if you slipped off of your, whether it's a mantra based meditation or a guided meditation or your breath meditation, and you found yourself deep into a train of thoughts? So, what? Begin again. And so, it's the idea of beginning again. That's, I think, the really powerful thing that, of course, translates into basically everything else that we do in our lives, not just meditation. And that's what's so beautiful about a meditation practice, is that it's actually never about the meditation itself. It's about, how does it show up outside of the meditation practice? Like, what are the other, 24.5 hours? Like, how is that going, right? So that is the key, rather than being very, very, very diligent, strict, dogmatic. Dogma does not work in meditation.
Yeah, probably, and not a whole lot of things. What about when you fall asleep meditating?
Yeah, that's a totally valid experience. When your body is tired, it will take the rest. And I fell asleep yesterday during a meditation. I was exhausted. And it's a totally valid experience, right? It doesn't mean you didn't meditate. It doesn't mean it doesn't count. Totally valid experience.
That's pretty cool. Is there science behind meditation?
There is. So let's talk about, the kinds of meditation that I teach are really based in, some of the ancient wisdom traditions that began in India. And I feel a real kind of connection to it. I was born in India, grew up there. And so those are, can be traced back, these particular lineages, to 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. So, generations of these ancient yogis took it upon themselves to preserve and evolve these types of meditation practices. And so there's pretty good evidence there that starts to show up, like something that's not helpful for mankind doesn't usually survive for that long, right? And usually doesn't survive at all. So that's the first clue that we can start to get. The second bit is, as physicians, we are told to be evidence-based, and I'm all about that. I practice in an evidence-based way. There's no way that we'd stand here and say, no, 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 because it worked for my cousin's grandma, it's going to work for you. No, that's not how this works. However, if you look at the science behind meditation, mindfulness, and we are discovering more and more, it's about 20 years old, maybe a little bit older than that, right? So we're comparing a 20-year-old study to a 5,000-year-old practice. So that's a good first way to start looking at this. And then, so the next thing is, when we dive into the studies, there's some beautiful evidence that starts to show up that's peer reviewed, that's published there. Now, I think we have, over 2, 3, 4,000 studies, if you look around the world, on the benefits of meditation. And, they start with, we can just start with brain health. They start with changes in neurotransmitters. So within, 10, 11 hours of meditation, we start to see endogenous serotonin increase by 35 to 40%. And that's pretty incredible. DHEA levels increase, growth hormone increases. The brain physiologically looks different as well in people who meditate for longer periods of time, right? So with consistency. And so the gray matter in the prefrontal cortex, which is where we have access to our higher creativity, intellect, all of that stuff, literally starts to thicken. And it just keeps going. And that's the beautiful part about it. So that's just, we'll just go top down, right? And so what starts to happen, is the parasympathetic rest and restore response comes on. And this isn't first time meditators. You don't have to be, in a meditation class or in any kind of formal place. You can sit down and start to notice your breath. That's how simple this is. And if you're just bringing awareness to it, then your blood pressure will go down, your heart rate goes down, inflammatory markers go down in time, and cortisol level, your adrenaline, cortisol, all of those things start to level off. And so there is, probably another 6 hours of these benefits that we can talk about. But I thought one of the most fascinating things that just published in JAMA Psychiatry this last Wednesday was it was a fairly large study. They compared a meditation program to Lexapro or escitalopram for anxiety. And, I prescribed tens of thousands of times Lexapro. And so it basically showed that it was exactly equal and didn't have any of the side effects of the Lexapro. And so the conclusion was multifold, right, when this was published. And it was that, we're not trying to make, and for me too, we're both physicians, we're not trying to make prescription medications the bad guys. They're certainly not. But the point here is, gosh, there's something here that's very time efficient and cost efficient. Why aren't we using it, right? And then, imagine if we not just pitted them against each other, but use them together. What's the synergy there? So there's lots more to find out. We're at the very tip of the iceberg for all the stuff that we're going to find out.
That's really cool. I was actually about to ask you, like, are there head-to-head studies? When you mentioned the serotonin thing, I was like, there has to be a head-to-head study with an SSRI, but
Just
there you go.
published just for you.
Brand
Yeah.
spanking new. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very timely. Um, Very cool. And, before we go on, I just want to say, if anyone's watching this live, please feel free to post #live in the comments, post your questions for Dr. Schramm, because she's amazing. Or, questions for me, but we're here to talk about Dr. Schramm too. So you have a course. So physicians are by nature perfectionists, and we don't like to do things unless we know how to do them already. So you do teach people how to meditate. Can you tell me a little bit about your course, what you teach us to do?
Yeah, I have one right now. It's called Healthy Mind, Happy Holidays, and this is the third year that I've offered an end of the year program. Because I used to wait until the beginning of the year, but it turns out people benefit enormously if we can keep a healthy mind through the holidays, through the crazy hectic holidays. And so, really, it's very very simple. It's based in a type of meditation that I teach that's called Yoga Nidra. Andrew Huberman calls it NSDR, or non-sleep deep rest. And so we base it around that. And then, of course, there's sort of themes like self-compassion and awe and wonder, and ways that we kind of go into each week has a certain theme to it. And so I invite folks to just come in, right? So I offer them some accountability. We meet once a week live, but if they can't make it, and oftentimes they can't, then they have the recording. It's in a portal. So really there's a little bit of accountability in that this is happening live every Wednesday, every Monday night. This is happening. And so we do that now from the rest of the year. So all you have to do is show up, lie down in a very comfortable position, and follow along. That's it. Those are the only criteria. And most people are usually willing to try it. And the rest of it is just guided. It's just totally guided. And, that's a tradition that goes back to 3,000 years ago. And I've been teaching it for, so many years. And I lose track of the number of people that I've had the honor of teaching it to, or just facilitating it, just being the container or the vessel for it. But it is just an incredibly powerful and effortless way to reach certain states of the mind, to train the mind, right? We're not controlling the mind, to train the mind, and to allow for this, whatever amount of healing to occur.
That's amazing. And is that 1 hour?
Yeah, it's 1 hour a week. Yeah.
Gosh, that's incredible. And
Yeah.
there's no expectation to do it on the other 6 days of the week.
Well, we talk about that, right? And so it's something like that that's so easy to do. When I say all you have to do is lie down and follow along, it's just really easy to do, right? It's simple, it's easy. But as our coach, Dr. Una, says, anything that's easy to do is also very easy not to do. And so it depends on how much you want to do it, right? And so there are no dogmas in meditation. But if you remember, when we were talking about those studies, that showed up with consistent practice, not once a week practice. But there will be accountability for at least 1 day a week, which is better than 0 days a week.
That's really, really cool. And I kind of wonder with that study, going back to that study, I wonder if it self-selects for, the people that can stick with the daily practice of meditation. You have
It
to be
did.
pretty
It did. That
disciplined.
it did, and that was one of the flaws. It had mostly upper middle class white women in it who had the ability to afford a teacher, as well as to afford to, kind of leave work at 6 p.m. every day. So that was definitely one of the critiques of that one particular study. But at the end of the day, kind of like when the author was interviewed and she was asked like what's a takeaway here, with meditation, and her kind of takeaway was, apps are great, books are great, all of those things, but ultimately when they see, and this has been true for me as well, which is why I still have a job, is when you have a meditation teacher, your likelihood of a consistent lifelong practice is, quadrupled or something like that. So and that was the truth for me as well. I mean, I joke about I signed up to be a teacher so many years ago, not because I thought I'd ever teach, but because I needed the accountability. And so for so many of us, we just need a little bit of that external accountability to stay consistent, at least initially.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like a workout buddy, but for your mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yes.
that's cool. So if people want to do your what did you call it? Happy holiday, healthy mind?
Yeah, I called it Healthy Mind, Happy
Oh,
Holidays,
I got them flipped. All right.
which is fine. I flip it all the time. What did I call it?
For being happy and healthy these holidays. Where do
Yeah.
people find you to be able to do that?
Yeah, so my website is optimalwellnessmd.org. I'm on Instagram at just Dr. Dr. Rashmi Schramm. That's also where you can find me on LinkedIn as well as on Facebook. It's, you just look up my name. So I'd love to connect.
Great, awesome. Well, everyone absolutely reach out to Dr. Schramm. She's amazing. Her calming personality is always very on point. And if you're watching this as a replay, type hashtag replay.
Amazing. You are like the most kind of well, like versed and rounded interviewer. Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful to be here.
Oh, thank you for coming. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.